Well, President Lindsay, as we just heard, we're going to be having a conversation. That's exciting.
Sounds good.
Good. Well, to get us started, you've studied and worked in some pretty exciting places over the course of the last 10, 15 years. What drew you to serving here at Gordon after all of that?
If you had told me a year ago that I would be at Gordon College, I would have thought you were crazy. I knew Gordon by reputation, but Rebecca and I were very happily living in Houston, and I felt very satisfied in what the Lord was doing in our lives while I was on faculty at Rice. But over the course of the last year, I would say the Lord really turned my heart toward Gordon. And if I had to identify one particular thing that draws me to Gordon, it's the people. The people that I've gotten to know over the years who are graduates of Gordon, the people who are the dedicated faculty and staff who work here, the people whose legacy has been involved in shaping what this particular school means. I'm drawn to institutions that punch above their weight. Schools that are doing more with limited resources. And I'd say Gordon exemplifies that in every single way. Gordon, as an institution, casts a shadow that's much, much larger than you would think for a campus of 1,500 students. In many ways, if you look at the history of Gordon, you can see that this institution has been helping shape the intellectual horizons of evangelical Christianity, certainly for the last 40 years, and perhaps even longer than that. But really specifically what draws me to Gordon is the sense that there's lots of talk in churches today about wanting to engage the culture. That's sort of a buzzword that people talk about. We want to engage the culture. When in fact, most of the time, churches are actually not well suited for that particular task. But Christian colleges and universities are especially well suited to do precisely that. It's what we do day in and day out. It's what we do in the classroom. It's what we do in the lab. It's what we do in the artist studio. It's who we are. It's woven into the DNA of what it means to be a Christian institution of higher learning. And so when you think about who's doing this cultural engagement and what's going on, Gordon College has really been ahead of the curve. Part of that comes from the fact that we're located in Boston, which just so happens to be the global capital of higher education. More college students per capita than any other city on the face of the planet. More institutions of higher learning per capita than any other city in the world. This is where the world comes to study. And we happen to be the top-ranked Christian institution in that particular setting. So when you talk about engaging the culture, we're not just ahead of the curve, we are the tip of the spear. So Gordon College is an institution that's doing a lot of important work, has been doing that for a long time, and I think it's that strength, the opportunity to be making a real significant difference that draws me to Gordon and wants me to be part of the community.
Brilliant. Well, that's exciting stuff. It is. So let's talk about your transition for a second. When did your family arrive, Mrs. Lindsay and the girls, and how is the move into Wilson House gone?
Well, I started the job on July 1st, and Rebecca and I were here for my first day on the job. It took about a month for us to close on the sale of our house in Houston and to move into Wilson House. During that time, I stayed in one of the guest suites. Our girls arrived in early August, and they are now fully a part of the community. I don't know if you've heard them, but they're around. We try to walk around campus in the strollers, and so if you see us, I hope you'll say hi to us. Our daughters are Elizabeth, who's 7, and then twin girls, Caroline and Emily, who are just starting to talk, and they have lots to say.
Good. Well, so now you've been on the job for a couple of months, and how have you managed to engage with all these lovely Gordon students we have here?
Well, I've really enjoyed the chance to get to know students. One of the things that was important to me is that I have opportunities to regularly connect with different groups of students. And so even before classes began, I had the good fortune to have lunch with GCSA and to hear from them some of the things that are important to them. One particular issue that GCSA brought to me that they're particularly interested in us developing. It's giving more opportunities for students to be involved in research, independent research, as well as working with faculty. And I said that I'm supported that, so I'm excited about that kind of initiative. I've also, we welcomed the entire freshman class to Wilson House for some afternoon parties where we had ice cream. We enjoyed that. I hope you guys enjoyed the ice cream as well. And we're looking forward to finding more occasions. I'm hoping to have different kinds of smaller gatherings. On the day that Ken shadowed me, I had a reception with all of the captains and the coaches of our athletic teams. And that was a lot of fun. I'm hoping to do more of those kinds of things. I'm hoping to be able to get out and to cheer for some of the games that you'll be playing in this season, as well as having some informal interactions before and after chapel.
Good. Probably more than I have, to be honest. So you spent almost 10 years of your career at Princeton, and that's interesting. I'm wondering, how does the Gordon student life compare to the Princeton student life? Can you talk about that?
Well,
well, you don't have to.
All right. Well, first off, I want to recommend that you read one article written by a guy named David Brooks. David Brooks is a New York Times columnist. And he wrote a piece that appeared in The Atlantic probably about 15 years ago called The Organization Kid. It was based on an ethnography that he did of Princeton undergraduates. And actually, I find that that particular piece describes not just Princeton undergraduates, but actually bright, talented undergrads at every institution in the country. And I think Gordon students exemplify this. He talks about how students today are trying to cram as much of experience as they possibly can in their college years. So they fill up their day timers, they fill up their appointment calendars, they've got so many activities going on that it's like running an organization to keep track with their life. And he also makes the observation that in this particular environment, students get so hardwired into this idea that they have to work hard and perform that eventually it reaches a boiling point, and they have to blow off steam one way or another. And Princeton students have endorsed this mantra called, we want to work hard and play hard. Now, for Princeton students, and I'd say students at other colleges around the country, most of the time that involves a lot of drinking and a lot of sex. That's sort of not in line with what we hold to be important to Christian virtues. And at least not in the college years. And so, I'm going to get in trouble.
Yep. Yes.
And so, I wrote a piece when I was a faculty member at Rice about the myth of work hard, play hard. Because I actually think that most of the time when people are talking about work hard, play hard, they're looking for some kind of moral justification for stupid behavior. I think that's really what's happening. I think that there's this norm that if I can somehow justify the fact that because I work so hard, I need to have an excuse to sort of do something crazy on a Saturday night. Almost all of which, the students who experience that, one way or another, come to a point of regret. It was striking to me when I was a faculty member at Rice, how often students would come and talk to me about mistakes that they have made in this sort of framework of work hard, play hard. And what happens is that you never enter college thinking that you're going to move away from your firm moral convictions. It happens in small incremental steps. It happens on one night when you say, well, I'm going to play hard tonight. And then that becomes, well, I did it last week, I'll try it again this week. And then it becomes part of a habit and routine. One student who I worked with is incredibly talented and bright, has a very promising future. And he made a mistake as an undergrad, and it was a mistake that he repeated too many times and became part of his life. And I remember having a conversation with him saying, you know what, this has become so ingrained in your life that I think you're going to have a hard time dehabitualizing yourself on this particular part of your behavior. And I think it's going to cost you something. And you've got too much talent and too much promise. I don't want you to wind up in the newspaper when you're running for public office, because this is a guy who has that kind of potential. One of the most heartbreaking emails I got was this summer, where something he had spent several years working for to get a job after he graduated, he actually was dismissed from that job because the same problem that got him in trouble in college, work hard, play hard, caused him to be fired from a job he had spent years hoping and dreaming of. One of the things that we try to do at Gordon is to put guardrails on your life, not because you need to be guarded like helicopter parenting tries to do. It's simply to say that you're making really big decisions at a time in your life when you're having more freedom than you've ever had in your entire life. And all of us need a way of training ourselves into figuring out how to make the right decisions. That's what we try to do here. And I'd say that we do a better job than Princeton does or that many other schools do in helping you become a fully developed, thinking person who makes important decisions and does it in a community that's supportive of the big questions in life. If I had to say what makes a difference between undergraduate life at Gordon and undergraduate life at Princeton, if I had to sum it up in one word, it's Jesus. Because we share a core commitment to trying to honor Christ, it shapes the culture of who we are. Yesterday, I joined a couple of students who were doing different service projects around campus to try and make the campus a little bit better. And I went around picking up trash with a guy named Andrew. And Andrew was asking me about a comment that I had made to the RAs at the beginning of the school year, in which I said, I hope that our campus would be the most loving campus in America. And he said, well, how do we do that? How do we actually become the most loving campus? I think this is one of the things that distinguishes us from Princeton. We actually aspire to be the most loving campus. We want love to constitute our character and our culture so much that it overflows in how we interact with one another. I said to him, small steps that we can take to try and move in that direction. One would be to try and figure out how to control our anger, because all of us fly off the handle. And it's human nature when you're living in close community to get frustrated with somebody else, whether it's your roommate or suite mate or somebody who you have class with. It's part of living in community together. The Bible tells us in our anger, do not sin. Small step of how we could become a more loving community is just to figure out how to disagree with people in still a loving way. Second thing I told them that I encourage all of us to do is to take the initiative to bless and encourage other people. Almost all of us, if we're asked to do a favor for somebody, we'll try to make it happen if we can. What I think would make us different is if we took the initiative to say, I see you're having a tough week. What can I do to try and help you out? Taking that initiative, I think, would be a really distinguishing characteristic that could make us the most loving campus in America. And that fundamentally, I think, is a difference between student life at Princeton and student life at Gordon.
So we're cooler than Princeton, and we're getting even more cool.
We are indeed.
I guess. Good. So here's a question I get all the time. Now you're the president. What you gonna do?
Well, what am I gonna do? I've spent the last couple of months trying to listen to different groups on campus, and part of the reason why I had lunch with GCSA was to hear from them some of the things that students were saying. I've enjoyed the chance to see different folks at the Bennett Center. I hope if you see me, you'll come up and introduce yourself and get a chance to visit when I see you on campus. And my hope is to continue to sort of be in a listening mode for a couple more months, but over time, we're going to try and launch some different initiatives. One of those, I think, is I want to try and give you more opportunities to work with our faculty in some important collaborative learning and collaborative research experiences, because I think that makes a huge difference. That would help our faculty, and I think it would help our students. Another thing that we want to try and do is create more opportunities to bring great people to campus for you to get to know them in smaller settings. I'm very encouraged, for example, that tomorrow, or on Friday, when Richard Malik, who is the president of Hearst Business Media. Hearst is one of the largest privately held companies in the world. Rich also happens to be a Gordon graduate. And he volunteered to meet with a small group of students to work on their resumes. I'm very grateful that Pam Lazarakis in Career Services has drawn together a group of students to be able to try and get some feedback from a senior executive about what their resumes look like. And if you were asked to do that and you chose not to, shame on you, because this is an amazing opportunity. I hope we'll create more of those kinds of opportunities. But here's the deal. It's not going to have any difference in your life if you don't take advantage of them. Small things that you could do that would make a huge difference in your college experience. If somebody comes to speak on campus and you connect with them, go up and introduce yourself to that person and ask for their business card. Then when you get their business card, write them an email the following week. You never know how this might become a key opportunity for you to get a chance to work for somebody over a summer or to launch a career. Looking for those kinds of opportunities that we want to try and create for you in the next couple of years, that's what I'm hoping to provide.
Very cool. So in just a minute or two, we're going to give you guys a chance to ask President Lindsay anything you want to. So no more canned questions, anything you want to ask. So there's a mic down here at the bottom, and I think there's a mic up in the balcony. So if you have a question, just stand up, walk over to one of those mics, and line up. And you can ask this man whatever you want. So, one more question, though, while I have a chance. The inaugural week, it's a big week, and the inaugural speech is a big speech. So I think you should give us a sneak preview before anyone important gets here. What are you going to say?
Okay. Well, I'm not going to give away the speech, but what could I say that would be helpful for you? I think in the speech what I want to try and do is identify a few things that I think Gordon has done very, very well in the past and things that I think we could do even better going forward. And it turns out those are the same things. I'm a real believer that if you want to strengthen an institution, you build on islands of strength. So you figure out what are you doing well, and you try and devote resources to try and do that even better. So I'm going to try and outline a few initiatives, things that I think would be of help to our students, to our community, to our alumni, and to the world. One of the things that we really want to do is help us to move beyond thinking of Gordon College existing fundamentally for us. It actually doesn't. We're part of a much larger enterprise of what I hope God is doing in renewing the world on the North Shore, in Boston, and around the globe. And so creating more of those kinds of intentional ways in which we can try and serve other people. That's what I'm hoping that we could be involved in. And so I'll try and lay out some of those initiatives, and I'll also try and tell a couple of stories of people who I think exemplify the very best of what Gordon has been, is, and will be, all of whom have a close connection with the college. That's as close to sharing the cookies as I'll do today.
Oh, so guarded. Okay. So now is your chance. I don't have any more questions. So there are a couple mics out there, and we'd love if you guys have anything you want to ask of President Lindsay to do so, and we'll try to answer honestly.